First off, I'd like to thank everyone for gathering here today in honor of my father. I'd like to thank my friends, family, and especially the seminaries and my godparents, Teresa and John Messina, for their unconditional love and helpfulness in a time of need. While I've heard many speak about how sick my father was, I truly believe there is no correct diagnosis, and we did all we could to help him. So I prefer to remember the man he truly was, to give myself closure. My father was a very simple man. He wanted to have a beautiful family. He found success, happiness, and my perfect mother to create this. While many of you may pity me right now, I was blessed to have a perfect childhood. Something very few can say. His passions were my passions. We loved all the same things, and while some of our shared hobbies were genuine, that was not just a coincidence. Here are a few things I wanted to share with you about my father. Babies flocked to him. Any random baby would love to stare at him. He could pick them up and they never cried. It was spellbinding. Maybe it was just a mutual boldness. He had extraordinary patience. I can only recall one moment of my father blowing up on me. My sister and I would not stop jumping from bed to bed in the hotel room after a long day of travel. My dad was often the butt of Sarah and I's hilarious jokes about him, and he never complained because it put a smile on our faces. Additionally, he was a phenomenal videotaper. Our home videos are something I'll cherish forever. At family vacations, at home, and on special occasions, he found a way to get everyone on camera and would communicate and interview in a uniquely soft and funny way that made everyone feel special. For that, I'm thankful for. Because if it was my mother, my second grade play would likely just be a video of the ceiling with some hazy audio. The other night, when I got in the hot tub for the first time without him, was probably the moment I felt most alone. That was a special place for us, as I would work out aches from crew practice. We'd catch up on each other's lives, distraction-free. Finally, a favorite memory of mine was in the crummy baseball stadium not too far from here. Baseball is a wonderful pastime, but just boring enough that it slows down time. And those games together allowed us to spend just a few more seconds together. It breaks my heart that I will not be able to spend the rest of my life with him. But I wouldn't trade any lifelong relationship in the world for the amazing relationship I had with him. I love you, Dad, and I will miss you.
I wanted to read a few words on behalf of my beautiful niece, Sarah. Sarah wanted everyone to know that everyone who's here today loved my dad very much, and I would like to thank each and every single one of you for coming out. Growing up, my dad was like my best friend. I was always told how he viewed me as his trophy, carrying me around and coddling me when I was on everybody else's last nerve. I never told him this, but I viewed him as a trophy as well. I always admired his patience and perseverance. People would approach me all the time in many places and tell me that my dad helped them or their loved ones in ways that were unrepayable. He touched so many lives with his compassionate and beautiful heart. My dad was loved and looked up to as a hero by so many, including myself. He broadened my view of the world and always pushed me to try new sports and be open to new ideas. From a young age, he instilled so many amazing qualities into Stefan and I. I'll cherish them forever. Many people here today have questions to ask my dad, including myself. But I believe instead of thinking of the questions to ask, we should think of all the amazing things he has accomplished. Because there were so many, and he worked so hard to create them. My dad made a lot of smart choices in his life. I believe the best choice he ever made was marrying my mother. She was his rock and guided him along the path to success. Even though my mother's intense persistence may drive me crazy, sometimes she is the strongest woman I have ever met. and I would be beyond lucky to have half the love, strength, and courage that she has. I could name countless memories I have made with my dad, but one of my favorites is when we got our dog Sadie, better known as Psycho Sadie, to golfers, neighbors, and friends. For my brother's birthday, my dad and I went out to find a dog. I'll never forget being with my dad that day and searching for our furry friend. People ask me all the time, why did you pick Sadie? What stood out about her? And to be honest, I think I just liked her spots, or as I would have called them then, polka dots. Turns out Sadie was one of the best things to happen to our family. Her crazy and unbelievable aggression from a 10-pound animal created so many memories for our family. As a kid, I was the mischievous one. I always hated camp. Ski camp, Callaway camp. I wanted to be out with my dad. Even though I would always find a way to get my parents to come and pick me up, the very next day they'd send me back off to camp. My mom would be angry with me because even as persistent as patient as she was, I knew how to push her limits. A little classic mother-daughter rivalry. But my dad would sit and patiently wait for me to be ready for camp. He would have waited for hours if I needed it. My dad was loved and looked up to by so many. He created a beautiful life for my family, and I am forever grateful. A day will not pass that I will not miss him, but I know he is watching over me with whatever life brings me. No matter how old I get, I will always be your little girl, and you will always be my hero and trophy. Rest in peace to the greatest man I know. I love you forever. Lots of work. I have the honor here as well of saying a few words on behalf of the Seminara family in memory of our beloved brother and Uncle Steve. And I say it that way because he truly was like our brother rather than a brother-in-law. He always had time to listen. And by his words and actions, he always showed he cared. He treated his large and loud Seminara family with love and respect. His love for our sister Sandy and his children Stefan and Sarah will always be a comfort to us and will help us heal. Now, my parents who aren't here loved Steve from day one. I mean, he was Italian, he was a doctor, and right, what else do you need? My father, who usually gave boyfriends the cold shoulder and acted the tough guy, hit it off with Steve quickly. Steve was even invited to join the family in a vacation to Mexico. I wasn't on that trip, but I could hear the discouraged groans all the way back in Maryland when Steve got off the plane in Mexico with a beautiful leather jacket for Sandy as her Christmas gift, but not the engagement ring I was expecting. But Steve and Sandy were married a short time later, and our family became better. Steve was so generous to us all, and we enjoyed several memorable Thanksgiving dinners and summer visits in Florida. We also have countless special memories of time spent together on annual family vacations to the Outer Banks, Maine, Ocean City, Hilton Head, South Carolina. We all tried to come up with memories of Steve to share. My brother Santo and his wife Maura told me, after thinking about our time with Steve, we decided that for us it wasn't one interaction, but the multiple times he showed care and concern for us and our family that made Steve so unique. His genuine interest in others exuded from him and made him into the wonderful husband, father, friend, and doctor he was. We also remember how it became a tradition, one we all look forward to, for Steve to give a little speech, toast, during an annual Christmas Eve dinner hosted by my mom. Wine always flowed. Steve didn't need much encouragement to stand up and do a quick year in review for the Seminara family. He always spoke lovingly of how lucky we were to have each other and to have good health. Of course, he did once slip and refer to his sisters-in-law as dinosaurs, as the modern era. But he assured us it was meant as a compliment. one memory that my seminary sisters will always treasure about Steve. The littlest Seminara, my sister Diemer, always looked forward to her Florida family visits in New York City when she lived there. She said it was their special time, and Steve made her feel like part of the family. He gave her advice when she needed it and encouragement throughout her whole life. She really looked up to this kind, loving family man when he came into our lives and changed us all forever. We also asked some of Steve's many nieces and nephews to share their memories of him. Many of them talked about the Cookie Superlative Awards that were handed out every year by Uncle Steve at Christmas during an annual cookie decorating lunch. Now, he and my sister Anna took this very seriously. They even set up a chamber room where they would deliberate over each cookie and the child that decorated to come up with a specific award name. The task would get a little hard for Anna after judging about the 10th cookie, but Steve would always stick with it and push to make sure she came up with the perfect award for each child. Anna was amazed that he knew or would find something special about each one of his nieces and nephews and focus the award on that unique trait. We all admire Steve's patience and thoughtfulness and his wanting to bring joy to others. And my niece Sloan said today that she thought Steve should get the most loved uncle and best, just the best uncle ever award, cookie award. There were other things I learned after the fact about Steve, like my son telling me once that he went off-roading with Uncle Steve in the swamp in a Jeep. I never knew that. My nephew Max talked about how he always looked forward to going to see Uncle Steve and Aunt Sandy every summer. And they'd be swimming in the pool, and Steve would come in from a run, and he'd jump in the pool and swim with them. He just loved kids. My niece Ava said during the Maine vacation, she had a wiggly tooth. I wouldn't let anyone come near it. Uncle Steve calmly asked me if he could check it, and it came out in his hand. I was so excited, and I couldn't stop smiling. She said, now I sure am going to miss my Uncle Steve, the dentist. But I know he's helping other people out there. Steve was a wonderful husband, loving father, caring brother, phenomenal physician, and loyal friend. Although the last weeks were difficult for him and us, we will never let that time overshadow the wonderful memories of the time we were privileged to have with him. Dear Steve, we will always love you. We will always miss you. We will never forget you. And God, we all ask that you take care of Steve in heaven as he took care of all of us. Amen. Thank you.
On behalf of Sandy, Anthony, and her family, I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. You both stopped and taken time out of your busy lives to pay tribute to a very special man. We're all very heartbroken over this tragic loss, and in our grief together, we will be a support system for each other and for Sandy, Stefan, and Sarah. As evidenced by the abundance of people here today, and the countless accolades and outpouring of support that people have written and shown, it's clear that Stephen Lewis Anthony was loved, respected, admired, and touched many people's lives. Steve was my best friend, and I've known him since 1984 when we met in medical school in Kansas City. When I look back at why Steve-O, as I used to call him, and I became such good friends, it would seem apparent that we may have bonded over some last-minute cramming, late-night partying, and the usual interests of 22-year-olds. But upon reflecting more deeply, I think it has more to do with the fact that Steve was a warm and accepting person. He made me feel comfortable in my own skin. He never judged me or criticized me. He accepted me with all my faults. Steve was very organized, as many of you know. I am very unorganized, as some of you may know. Well, Steve unwittingly lived with me for a few rotations in school. Of course, he learned his lesson and never lived with me again. During that entire time, he never said anything or got angry or appeared annoyed with me. That's the kind of person he was. He invited me to his parents' home and I did some rotations in Philly. There, a bond was cemented that lasted for decades. His parents treated me like their own son, and I felt like Steve's brother. True to form, when Steve's parents, Stephen and Jean, became ill years later, Steve moved them down to Largo so he could help care for them. The difficulties of caring for two ailing and elderly parents would have strained most people, but Steve did it with patience and kindness. When I was an intern at Suncoast Hospital, Stephen came to visit me. Upon his departure, during a layover, he met a nice Italian girl at the airport. Sandy, he never had eyes for anyone else after he met you. I couldn't believe his single party days were over, but after I met you, I knew why. Although our training took us in different directions, Steve returned to Philly to start a surgical residency and specialize in otolaryngology. After marrying Sandy 24 years ago next month and completing his training, in full Largo to start his practice and help grow ENT associates into the respected group that it is today. Soon after, Stefan and Sarah came along. What defined Steve first and foremost was his love for his wife, Sandy, and his children. Sandy was the yin to his yang, the reason for his being. The love story is for Sandy to tell, but I know while it is deep, it was also full of candor and humor. I do not think there is a father in this room, myself included, who loved his children more than Steve. Stefan, you're now a young man and are set on a path to succeed in life. That was all your father ever wanted for you. I remember when you were born, you were an unexpected gift. Much like when your father was born, as your grandmother Jean did not believe she could have any more children. Your father never fussed about your nighttime feedings, but looked forward to them so he could gaze at you, his son. I'm sure it helped that your mom was able to train you to sleep through the night by 4 weeks of age. Beautiful Sarah, another unexpected gift. You were the apple, diamond, the heart, and lasagna of his eyes. Although you were not the easiest toddler for your mother, you were nothing but a delight to your father. I remember once when you were napping and your father and I were talking, all of a sudden he stopped talking and started to listen intently. I didn't hear anything, but he bounded off and brought you out of your crib where you had woken up and had been crying. He was the only one who heard you crying. He was always that connected to you. I know there are 1,000 other stories, but I tell you these stories because I'm old. That's all I can remember for now. The point is that I always felt, and I still feel, his love for you. His love extended to those around him as well. He loved people, old and young, had a way of putting them at ease. He loved people from different backgrounds and who had different experiences. He could stay in the best resorts, but would easily be able to share a meal with a homeless man on the street corner in Philadelphia having a cheesesteak. He didn't judge. He realized that life was hard and you cope as well as you can. I believe that it was this quality of non-judgmental acceptance that endeared him to his family, friends, office staff, patients, and acquaintances he made along the way of his abbreviated life of 55 years. He was selfless to a fault and never asked for anything in return. He was always the first to volunteer for any task that would make life easier for his family and friends. We all have stories about how Steve went out of his way to help us, from watching our babies on vacation, to cleaning them up when they got sick, to offering his home to our families, to tending my father-in-law in this very church when he passed out less than a year ago. The stories are endless. I will miss our early morning catch-up talks, traveling together, or spending holidays in life cycle events with him, or just laughing together and seeing that $1 million smile. I lost a brother in my 20s, and now I feel it as if I have lost another brother. The world is a sadder place for it. Such are the uncertainties of life. It's hard to understand. I'm sorry. Why such a horrible thing could happen to such a great man? This is a question without an answer. I have no answers.
Our God gives us no answers, but He gives us a way to move forward, and that's through love. Stephen embodied love. Love for his family, his friends, his co-workers, and his patients. We should not dwell on his loss, but celebrate his life, his accomplishments, and his ineffable way. One of his 88-year-old patients with cancer wrote this week that she does not have long for this life, but she misses him and is looking forward to seeing him again soon. May his family find comfort in knowing that some of his last words uttered to me were about his love for them. His love for you was stronger than he was. So long, friend. May God grant you peace and mercy as you exhibit it unto others throughout your life.